It's impossible for anyone to be looking everything at the same time.
Yes.
So we have a technique. Most likely you don't know that, but those who go to the starting stalls, you say, "Well, that's how I do for this past 30 years." It's obvious for them. Usually, we don't scan the horses from the top. We look at the legs.
Okay, the feet first.
Yeah, because when you look at the legs, you can see what the horse is doing. If a horse is standing, you see a horse standing squarely over there. If a horse is reacting, you see that the horse is reacting.
Welcome to another edition of In the Box Seat podcast. And last week we weren't at our traditional spot at the Summerfeld Clubhouse. We were at Wetwood Stud up in the Midlands. Today we're not in the same spot either. We're in the parade ring at Hollywood Bet Scottsville. That's where we're doing our podcast today, and a lovely cool day for a change. It gives me great pleasure. I'm going to introduce our guest first, so if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Guests first, always. Our guest today is the National Horse Racing Authority veterinary surgeon. His name is Dr. Thiago Luz, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but he'll pronounce it correctly for us. He's our guest. How are you, Thiago?
I'm great, Warren. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with you and Rahil. And let's have some fun.
Absolutely. Please, could you, we were just having a little laugh off air about our full names. Now, my full name is, being Mauritian, Warren Leo Allen Lenferner de la Motte. So that's quite a mouthful. You've also got a bit of a mouthful.
Absolutely. I think yours is more royal than mine. But mine is Thiago Reis Ribeiro da Luz. That's how I would pronounce in Portuguese, let's say.
Okay.
Each word has a meaning, but I think that's a little bit besides the point. It's a long name. I don't mind people calling me Dr. Thiago or Dr. Luz, or it's fine.
Okay, so Luz actually is the correct pronunciation. Luz.
Yeah. Luz, it means light.
Okay, fantastic.
And Thiago is a biblical name.
Okay.
And means James.
Okay, she's fantastic. And I'm glad I see that at race days you've always got your lovely hat on like I have. Here's my hat ready for today's racing, because you and I, we go to the same barber. We bald.
Absolutely. I love your haircut, by the way. I use a Panama hat.
Yes.
Maybe people are curious to know about it. I bought here in South Africa. I have two, actually. The one that I travel, I bought here in South Africa from a South African couple who goes there to Ecuador to source them personally.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah, and the reason that I'm telling you that is because maybe people want a Panama hat.
Yes,
so they,
a proper Panama hat.
They based it in the Western Cape.
Okay.
And Panama hats are actually made in Ecuador.
Okay, she's
Quite
fantastic.
cool, that.
Yeah, absolutely. But top quality, they last forever.
Yeah.
You're still lucky. You're young and you've got a
the
thick
hair.
head of hair. You don't need a hat just yet.
Just yet.
Touch wood. A couple of wait till you get older, when it all falls away. You'll see.
Your day will come. You see.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
There's nothing wrong with being bald. There's nothing wrong with being bald. Thiago, let's talk about your nationality. And I'm glad that you're having a sip of your coffee, because we are in a relaxed environment, and we normally have our tea with us at the clubhouse, but we're not at the clubhouse today. But we want to know from you, tell us about your nationality. Where are you from? That's basically it, because we can hear by your beautiful accent you're not South African.
Absolutely, Warren. Thank you. Yeah, people think that I'm French because of my accent. I'm Brazilian. I'm born and bred, but I'm also Portuguese. So I was born in São Paulo. São Paulo is a city, one of the largest cities in the world, but also a state. The reason that I'm telling you that, because I was born in São Paulo, but I grew up in the countryside of São Paulo.
Okay.
Basically, I grew up in a farm. So it was a coffee farm, my family's coffee farm, and I grew up there. That's how I got in contact with horses. To begin with.
Okay.
And by the way, talking about coffee.
Yes, I was going to say, now we want to know what's in that jar.
Yeah,
we want to know the good quality coffee.
Exactly. I'm actually
That's the proper stuff.
I'm actually drinking rooibos tea.
Oh, it was tea this
and
time.
I don't only drink coffee during my breakfast, and I don't drink coffee afterwards.
Okay.
And one of the reasons is I get a little bit jittery.
Okay.
But also I don't drink any caffeine drinks while I'm in a working environment for integrity issues.
Okay. Fantastic. That's interesting. Very interesting. Because coffee can, of course, it's it's supposed to give you energy. Gives you, actually gives you that.
Do you have a milk coffee or just straight up black coffee?
No milk,
No milk.
sugar, black coffee. And like I was saying, I grew up in a coffee farm. We used to plant other types of crops as well. We used to have cattle, horses, and other type of animals, but mainly coffee farm. And but I didn't grow up drinking coffee every day. Can you believe?
Sure, quite interesting.
But I was passionate about the smell of coffee and when they're roasting, but also throughout all the process. So I don't know if you know much about the whole process. To begin with, a coffee plant, when it's blooming, it's absolutely there's an absolutely amazing aroma, smell of perfume in the air, and that travels 100 meters away from the farm. It's amazing. Then you have the smell of the coffee bean itself.
Yes.
It's very characteristic, and I grew up with that. So
that
to
smell,
me,
sure.
brings good memories. Then there's the smell of coffee when they're drying, and then there's smell of the coffee when they are drying, and then finally when they're roasting, which
Yes.
in my opinion is the most characteristic one that we all know.
Okay.
So I grew up with all these memories.
Okay, geez, that's interesting. And on a farm too. I mean, I didn't know that. That's fantastic. Because now, why did you want to become a vet? How did it all start for you? How did you heard about horses? You told us that you were on a farm with horses, but how did you hear about horse racing? What made you want to become a vet and not a pilot or a lawyer or an accountant or?
I think we have some time here, so I will tell you the whole story.
Absolutely.
So remember that farm that I was telling you about?
Yes.
So there was the main farmhouse that was built by my grandfather, who was an engineer. So a traditional coffee farm from Brazil, house in the top of a hill, overseeing a 22-hectare lake. Okay, with a hill that would go down to this lake, made of grass, and I have a very good memory, childhood memory, memory from my childhood, and one of my earliest recollections of all, not only about horses, is being called to go outside the house, and as we opened the double door, the horses were moving from the stables to their pasture, like 15, 20 of them,
Yes.
bucking and jumping around and trotting, cantering, going crazy, happy because they're going to their pasture.
Yes.
And that, I don't know if you believe in destiny, if you believe in even God, what was that
All about.
all about,
Yes.
because look what I do today. So if you ask me, one of my favorite things that I do is watching the canter pass,
Okay.
Wow.
which you also have the pleasure of
Yes.
watching every day.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the canter pass amuse me, and because of how the horses move,
Yes.
that captures my imagination, and that entertain me. I get amused by that,
But not only are you getting amused by it and enjoying it because it's such a beautiful, thing to watch. It's like watching a good swimmer or watching a rugby player that does his job or her job so beautifully. But you're obviously also watching for the health. I mean, we'll come back and talk about welfare and health of the animal, but you're obviously also watching them to see they're striding well and they're moving good and they're not feeling any aches and pains. Is that correct too? That's what you're watching for, obviously.
Absolutely, Warren. As everybody knows, that's my main duty when I'm on Racecourse. And before getting to that, I would like to briefly tell you how I got into racehorses.
Yes.
Because I graduated in South Brazil in one of Brazilian's best universities, That's Santa Maria University. Santa Maria obviously stands for Saint Mary.
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Santa Maria Saint Mary University. So that's in Santa Maria City in South of Brazil. That's the city where I met my wife, by the way.
Okay.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so that's a different state. So just so you understand, I told you the story about my farm. I had to move from my farm 2,000 kilometers away to live in a different city to undertake my veterinary course. I was lucky enough, cutting a long story short, to be mentored by a great professor, Professor Flávio de la Corte. He's one of the main practitioners for sport horses in Brazil. He himself trained in the United States and then went back to Brazil to lecture. So I was very fortunate to get to know him and be mentored by him. So he took me. So I started working in an equine hospital. Most veterinarians start work in a equine hospital, in a academia equine hospital. And from that, once I was fluent enough to undertake to carry out more work, I started traveling with my professor. So he would go to all sport horses based in South of Brazil. That would be not only flat racing, but also reining and other modalities that we have in South of Brazil, like cattle driving and this type of things. Okay, but also stud farm. So not only reproduction, but also surgeries, this type of things. So from there, I was introduced to racehorses.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to know more about how I evolved in my career, or if you wanted me to move on to what I do on a race day. What
Well,
do you prefer?
Tell us about your
Tell us.
career.
We want to hear your story.
Yeah.
That's why we've got you here, and we've got the time. But absolutely, how you were introduced, to the racehorse and to horse racing.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So that's how I was first introduced to racehorses.
Okay.
Okay. In Brazil, it's kind of a bush racing, all right? That we have in South of Brazil, and that's very popular. I used to go to that a lot.
Okay.
So I saw many things, many different things that you not see in a training center as we know it,
Yes.
from Sommerfeld and so on. So you learn a lot from that. After my graduation in South of Brazil, so just before graduating, I was undertaking training in a stud farm in South of Brazil. That's Bagé do Sul stud farm. Do you know that horse Leroy des Animaux?
No, haven't heard of that.
You know Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
So Leroy des Animaux is the sire of Animal Kingdom.
Okay.
Leroy des Animaux was bred at Bagé Stud Farm, just to give you a reference of the caliber of a horse that can be bred there. So I was there at Bagé do Sul Stud Farm, and then I got to know that about a job opportunity at Mark Johnston Racing. Do you know Mark
Yes,
Johnston?
Yes,
absolutely,
top
yeah.
trainer.
Yes, he just got retired, and I had the pleasure to see him again at the Cape Early
Yes,
Sales.
he was at the
Oh,
Cape
wow.
Sales. That's right. Yeah, I saw that on social media.
Yeah, and I think he bought a few horses as well. And I know that he would go for holidays here with his wife, trade.
I know that sorry to interrupt you,
No
our
problem.
South African champion trainer, Mr. Paul Peter, who's since retired, but his son has now taken out his license. I know that he met him as well at the Cape Sale.
Yes.
And when you ask Mr. Paul Peter, who's his role model and who does he look up to?
Yeah.
Mark Johnson.
Absolutely.
And why not? Top man, top horseman.
Yeah, well, I would say that everyone involved with horse racing should pay a visit there one day,
Yeah.
because it's marvelous.
Okay.
His operation, it's absolutely marvelous. But cutting a long story short again, I eventually got the job.
Okay.
And I went there, and because I was just graduated, I worked there as a veterinarian assistant because of my license. Didn't have the time to do my license, and it was very, very, very intense work in a good way. I learned so much, and on that season, 2009, back 2009. Were you born in 2009?
No, I was. Don't look that young now.
So back in 2009, we
I wasn't born in 2009.
You see? In 2009, Mark broke the record of and became the winning most trainer in a single season. You know, later on he became the winning most trainer in history of Great Britain.
Sure.
Which is, I don't know if someone will ever come close to emulate what he's done. I think that shows his career.
Yeah.
He has a book published, by the way, called
I'd love to see that. I'm currently reading the book on Mr. Orman Ferraris.
I see.
Now I'd love to read that book.
What was your transformation like, going obviously from Brazil to the UK, where it's totally different and you have to adapt to new conditions, new people? Well, what's it like?
Very good question. Well, you can only imagine.
Yeah.
Horses. So please don't get me wrong. This is not a South African thing. It's the contrary. Everywhere that you go, every regional place that you go, if that makes sense to you, people will think that they know horses better than you. Don't fool yourself. You go to England, you go to Brazil, they think that they know better than you.
Correct.
That's from every place that I've been, that's the norm. And what can we do? You know, so it's always challenging. People will test you.
Yes.
People will bring difficult situations, but that's how you build up your expertise.
Yes.
You know, you gotta be resilient. You know, so I presume you too face challenges throughout your career.
Absolutely, we do.
So you can only imagine. You know. Anyway, I was very welcome by the team at Mark Johnston. Very welcome. But I was not only making a transition from a country to another, but also from academia to now 100% a training center. You know, so that's very different.
You're in the big leagues now.
I remember one day, I'll tell you this story. We had a horse. That horse had a knee problem, and ordinary knee issue. Okay, so that horse was in a trotting ring, as we call, warming up. Okay, and my job was to oversee that. Not only that horse, there was other 20 horses together on the trotting ring, trotting early in the morning. Mark Johnston was with me, and then I noticed the horse was worst. And then he kept looking at me, and I said, "Yeah, I think he noticed that the horse is getting worse." And then eventually he approached me. "Did you notice that horse is getting worse?" I said, "Yeah." "Why didn't you do something?" I said, "I was looking at you, you know."
Waiting for you to do something.
Yeah, but he was right. You know, I was supposed to, stand up. You know, I was beginning. You know,
Yes.
Just beginning. So then he said, "What do you think it is?" I said, "Wow, I know that the horse has a knee problem." He said, "Thiago, that horse is trotting. That horse is trotting." So he come with me. He took me with him. We went to the trotting ring, and he said, "This is not a knee issue." He got the horse hoof left fore. It's a stone.
Sure.
The stone.
Yeah, a stone was there.
Sure, and that was obviously making the horse
So,
uncomfortable.
Obviously that horse cannot be lame because of its knee. We know what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It couldn't deteriorate it here.
Yes.
It has to be something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting.
So you learn so much.
Yeah.
You know, you learn so much.
Thiago, then with regards to, I want to talk. We're going to talk now about Racecourse. A day at the races. But before we do that, we want to hear about your family. You said you met your wife, obviously in a part of Brazil. Tell us about your wife. Tell us about your kids, if you have any kids. Tell us about your family.
I can tell you. I will focus more in my wife and my daughter.
Yes.
So my wife and daughter, we live in Germiston, Johannesburg, as You probably know Warren. I
Yes,
don't know.
yes.
Right,
Near where
you
the
know
sales
that.
are, that's near the sales ground area, Germiston. Yeah.
So, and we love that location. We settled well in South Africa. I think school play a role, a determinant role, because we have a school 2 minutes away from our house.
Okay.
You know, so my wife goes there easily, you know, effortlessly. So, and my daughter loves it. My daughter is very peculiar. She has a lot of energy. She's very well known in her school. Everybody shouts her name. So her name is Katarina. Katarina, as you can imagine, is Catherine.
Yes.
We call her Nina for short.
Okay.
So nobody calls her Nina. Everybody calls her Nina. So she arrives at school, everybody goes, Nina.
Lovely.
The boys like her, like to play with her, run around with her. So that's the type of girl, you know.
Okay.
Very intelligent. Obviously, she's speaking. She's more South African now than Brazilian.
Oh, wow.
So
Can
she
imagine,
was
yeah.
she was born in Rio de Janeiro. By that time, I was working for the Brazilian Jockey Club. I can go back to that experience later. And the Brazilian Jockey Club. So we were living in Rio de Janeiro when she was born, in the middle of the pandemics, as you can imagine.
Yes.
So that was a little bit difficult. So we had to move to South Africa during the pandemic.
So you've only been in South Africa a couple of years then. How many years have you been in South Africa in total?
2 years and 3 months
And did you come to South Africa?
before that.
But I'm saying you came obviously to work for the National Horse Racing Authority.
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
sure. It's a
Otherwise,
big move.
it's a big move. So you can only imagine the paperwork.
Sure.
You have to prove that you are who you are. You have to prove that every place. I have a critical skills visa. Okay, so you have to prove so many things. So you gotta have police clearances. I have to prove that my degree is recognized here. I have to prove that my degree is real.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So I have to prove that I have sufficient funds. I have to prove so many things.
Sure.
During the pandemic, you know,
Must have been tough.
very
Not
tough.
easy, yeah.
So I really appreciate that everyone on the NHA believed on me, on my work,
Yes.
you know, and support me, because without the support of the NHA, I wouldn't make it, you know what I mean? Because it was complicated because of their circumstances. Anyway, I made it. Shortly after arriving in South Africa, my family arrived. I arrived in December, and my family arrived shortly after Christmas.
Okay.
And we're together here since then. I haven't been back to Brazil. There's much to do with work, but also there's so many places to see here,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
We've been to Kruger, we've been to many places.
Oh, lovely. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But you were asking Thiago earlier on about, the different race courses that he
yeah.
travels to, because that can't be easy. Go on and chat about. He goes to all the race courses.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure when you in your time in the UK, you would have seen many of the race courses there. And
Yes.
What's it like coming to a race course in South Africa, in terms of, obviously now the atmosphere, the crowd has grown, and because of COVID it hasn't quite been the same, but in the UK compared to South Africa, what's it like, the crowds and the atmosphere?
Well, I can tell you that when I was in the UK and in a race course, I was there socially, not working.
Yes.
So I could enjoy that, you know. And it's a social event, you know. So the focus is far from being betting, let's say.
Okay, yes.
So it's very interesting because you feel it feels like you can take your family, friends, anyone
To the races.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that here is different, but I'm saying clearly it's a social event, you know. When we think about South Africa, we know that attendance is low. I think everybody recognizes that.
It's a known fact,
you know?
yeah.
However, I feel that we can get a good atmosphere on future meetings anywhere. In Greyville, I think Greyville usually has a more public on the race course, and
yes.
that I like it.
Yes.
I like it. And I think everyone prefers, maybe even the horses. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. The horses and the jockeys, you're right. They feel the vibe. They feel the
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. I like to work on all race courses. Technically speaking, just I don't know if you can realize that. That's why I'm bringing up to you and to everybody else. There are some race courses that are more challenging to operate because of the distance that we have to walk. So Candice knows, for instance, when we have to work in Turfontaine, you walk a lot, and depending of the track, like the stand side track, you have to operate with two vets. One vet in the inside track and another vet on the outside track. So that is more challenging.
Okay.
You
That's
know,
interesting. I
because
didn't
you have
thought of
to
something like
you
that,
have
yeah.
to organize everything, and you have to deal with multiple things, and sometimes you have to rush because you gotta go to the start, or you gotta go to the inner to that road, service road inside the track. So interestingly, there's a race course that I find fascinating, because when you ask me, that race course comes to my mind. That is Borodale. in Zimbabwe.
What a
Zimbabwe,
beautiful place, yeah.
Wow, stunning.
Yeah.
What a beautiful place. The potential of that place when it comes to the to that race course and the surrounding and what surrounds that race
Yeah.
course is amazing. Here as well, I find it fascinating when I walk down the path and I face the hills
Yes,
over
the
there.
background, yeah.
That's fascinating. But I do like all race courses, really. You know,
You do a lot of traveling, Thiago, and it, you know, we see you on TV and in the Cape. We see you do a lot of traveling. That's part of your job. We understand that, but how do you? I mean, it can't be easy managing a young family, you know, and fulfilling your job. You do it because you love it, but obviously your wife's understanding, and you're obviously not nervous of flying because you're in an aeroplane most days. It can't be easy. Do you get some time to just be at home and relax with the family?
sometimes it's difficult to find a day, but we're working on that. And I gotta be fair with my colleagues. My colleagues travel a lot.
Yes.
And I have a lot of local vets that support us. And it's important that I bring this up.
Yes.
You know, it's not a man work, it's the contrary. And if you don't have a team, you're lost.
You're lost. Yeah,
You
it's a
know,
very
so
good
it's a
point.
teamwork, and that helps me to go through. When it comes to traveling, I can tell you before my daughter was easier. I was fearless.
Yes.
And I'll be very honest with you. After having my daughter, you know, when the airplane shakes a little bit, you get a little bit nervous.
Yes, of course.
But
Perspective
because
on life changes.
exactly, your perception changes
Yeah,
because the consequence changes.
sure.
You know, so this is something significant for me. But I overcame this, if that makes sense to you. You know, I no longer think too much about it. In the beginning, I used to think more about that. Sometimes it's difficult when you're far away from your family, having a young daughter who is 3 years old, basically, and she gets frustrated.
Shame, I can imagine. Yeah.
So then when I approach her, you know, it's difficult. You know, it's not that she doesn't know me. Come on.
No, of course,
You know.
of course, yeah, no, sure.
And but it's difficult because if I'm at home, she wants my attention.
Absolutely.
And at this age, remember, I'm learning. That's my first one. You're gonna get there one day. And you see, it's my first one, so I'm learning a lot.
Sure.
And I didn't know that would be so demanding.
Yes.
I think I would say carves for attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
She wants my attention 100% of the time.
But also, as you say, with you know, with kids, you know, you obviously they're too young to understand it. But there's dad, yourself, going out working as hard as you can, to make a good life for your family. So, but that you can only explain to her when she's a lot older, because she's obviously too young to understand that.
I think she understood quite at young age. Do you want to know why? So do you know what my daughter's first phrase was?
What's that?
In Portuguese, I would translate to you, "Dad is not home." So she would go back to our house and notice that the car was not there.
Yes.
You know, and my daughter would, "Daddy," and my wife would say, "Dad is not home."
Okay.
You know, coming back to school, and it's a little bit sad, but
Yes.
that's life. Everybody has to sacrifice a little bit of your time to do what you do best and for what you love. I mean, I presume going through the program takes a lot of your time.
Yes.
Maybe even reviewing races. I don't know what it takes in your case, but you can imagine in my case as well. But we can cope with it, you know. I think I compensate being with her. Perhaps would be like mindfully being there with her.
Yes.
Wholeheartedly being there with her, you know.
When you're with her, you give it 100%,
Yeah.
150% effort.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And then in that sense, I take her to different places. I take her to. She likes to see the horses,
Yes. Okay.
but then when it gets there, she's afraid of the horses.
Okay.
But she likes me taking her there. So we drive to places where we can walk, being what she called forest.
Okay.
You know. So yeah, that's what I do with my family then.
Quite interesting.
You know, we were just talking in the car driving up to Hollywood Bet Scottsville this morning, and we won't mention people's names because out of respect to them, but we were just talking about how certain, Rahil's not a father yet. I'm unfortunately not a father. I'm only a stepfather, but we were chatting in the car about life changes, and the common denominator was, we said, why did so-and-so's life take such a good turn? Why did so-and-so's life take such a good turn? And the common denominator was, they've had kids. Because you were saying, it gives you a whole different perspective. Like you're saying on the aeroplane, when you get a bit of turbulence, you think, oh, okay. Whereas you wouldn't have noticed it before. But and a lot of people, it's the kids, because you're here for the kids. So it's an interesting observation. That
Absolutely, and I would say also life is anything but stable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's ups and downs, misunderstandings, and difficult moments and good moments. That's why I think people should celebrate.
Yes.
And just to bring something that you witness personally on a daily basis when you're working is to congratulate the trainers and the team when they win.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important aspect of the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if not, what are we doing?
Yeah, what are we doing? And what are we doing it for? It becomes meaningless. You're quite right.
Exactly. So in that sense, I think it's very important to look at the eyes, the groom's eye, and say, "Well done."
Well done. Yeah, absolutely.
Well done.
Yeah.
And you can see that they're very proud, or in a simple way, congratulate a trainer. Remember, we gotta be professional.
Yes.
Integrity is important, but I think this is something important. Or when we make a decision, and as you know, and we can talk more about that. We make many important decisions, and I would say many of these important decisions people don't even realize that we've taken. The public would not even perceive that. But we make a lot of decisions, important decisions, sometimes small decisions, but quick decisions, but very important decisions, that can change the outcome of a race or most importantly, it's important to understand what I do.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because now I wanted to say to you that we come to a race day, and in the time that I've known you, and I've observed, you're a very, and it's not a case about blowing smoke, I'm just telling you a fact. You're a very strict man. You're a very respectful man. You know exactly what's right and what's wrong. And you can see by the way you do your job. You look at the finish, you're at the finish. You're in the parade ring, you're trotting horses. You're watching them canter down. You're liaising with trainers. You're telling trainers some things that they might not want to hear. but that's your job. And yes, you liaise with trainers, you liaise with managers, etc. But you're very particular, and you want things done correctly, which is fantastic. Which can't make it easy, because now you're getting into confrontation. But at the end of the day, it's all about the welfare and the betterment of the individual horse.
Thank you, Warren, for your kind words. And I think you spot on regarding the welfare of the horse, and I will talk a little bit more about that. It's important to remember also that if I'm at the parade ring looking at the horses for the upcoming race, it's because my colleague is at the boardroom reporting. So again, it's a team work. So there is also a team of stipes looking at the horses, and if something happens, they bring that to my attention. So teamworks allow this to happen. I think it's important that we understand that this transpires like that, but there is a team behind of what I do. But if I may say so, if that translates what I try to do, yes, because that's exactly what I try to do. Okay. So I appreciate that you bring this also, because. And I know that
I mean, the same as us as TV presenters, you know, it's every job or responsibility faces its challenges. So, you know, you're a human, you've got feelings. Now, if you find a horse that's a little unsound and you feel that it has to be withdrawn, you know, you have to deal with the trainer and maybe the owner, etc. And of course, emotions are running high. But at the end of the day, it's not about your feelings or the trainer. It's about the horse and the jockey, etc. And it must be difficult at times.
Absolutely. And regarding pressure, I would say the most important thing is that I have support. So when I make a decision, I know that I have my colleagues' support.
Yes.
Remember, if we can, we always make a decision based on the two vets' opinion. So maybe not everybody knows, so we always operate with at least two vets. Okay. So if I'm trotting a horse post-race, if the other vet's available, not dealing with an emergency, I will trot that horse together with the other vet. Not only to address integrity, but also to get a different opinion, as to gather even more support. You think this horse is lame? Yes, I think. Yes, okay, let's report. And then I know that I have the support from the board, that I have the support from my direct boss, and then that I have the support from the NHA management, and then that I have the ultimate, most likely the support from the board.
Yes.
I think that's very important to understand.
Yeah.
Without support, this wouldn't be possible. For instance, you've seen that we trot all the horses post-race.
Yes.
Do you think that's an easy move?
No, it's not an easy job.
No, but an easy move.
Yeah.
No, easy. If it's technically, if that easy or not, let's put aside. But to introduce such a change,
yes,
would you think that's easy, considering everything that you can go through? Imagine yourself changing how you're broadcasting. Instead of calling from your office, you decide to change to another place,
yes,
because you think it's better somehow. That's challenging. You know that. So that's the sort of thing that I face when I implement what I call a new regulatory action.
Yes.
I'm being technical here.
Yes.
But when you see the outcome later,
then it's
then everybody, and then the trainers come to you and say, "Hey, well done.
Yeah.
I really appreciate what you're doing."
Yeah.
And then you look disputes. So dispute is when you say that the horse is lame,
and the trainer says it's not.
Yeah, for instance, and then you see that, since we introduced that, there's virtually no more disputes.
Yeah.
Why? Because from all the horses, I can easily see the one that's not striding out well.
Yes. But now, Thiago, what happens in a case where, some horses have low actions or daisy cutter actions, or often you'll hear across the country presenters saying, well, this particular horse normally has that action, goes down that way. If a trainer will come to you and say, look, let's look at this together. This is the horse's action. It appears sore, but it's not sore. Do you have those situations as well, that you've got to do flexions and everything?
Absolutely. And that's a very good question. to begin with, I gotta go a little bit technical, otherwise it's difficult to explain. And I think the general public will appreciate as well, everybody else. So to begin with, lameness is anything but stable. So what I'm trying to say is maybe and sometimes it can go subclinical. Okay, subclinical means that I won't be able to see it, but it's there.
Yes.
Okay, and also lameness, it can be measured by equipments. For instance, the lameness locator. Okay, it's an equipment that you put on the horse, and you get some.
A reading.
Yeah, reading
Okay.
a paper that here it says that your horse is lame. We don't have that, do we? And we don't even have the time. If we had the equipment, it's on race day operation. Okay, so just for you picture the difficulties surrounding this. All right. So what I'm trying to tell you is this: sometimes a jockey may feel something wrong, but this, regardless my expertise, I won't be able to see that.
Yes.
Okay, and then maybe I can see that when the jockey is riding his horse to the starting stall, but maybe that will disappear when the horse is at the back at the parade ring.
Maybe it's warmed up a bit and
Didn't race. It's jumping around, hiding that lameness away. So we can get caught into very difficult situations, you know. So that's why respect. We have to respect.
Yes.
I respect the jockey's opinion,
Yes.
and I will even give a step back. I respect the fact that most likely the trainer saw that the horse that morning during that week was sound.
Yes. Yes. Of course. Yeah.
Okay, I respect that, and then I respect that the jockey is appreciating something there. He reckons that, I don't know, his horse is not striding well. And I expect people also to respect.
Yes.
If we keep the discussion respectful, I think that's key.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a very good
You
point.
can disagree, you know, but we gotta keep it professional. We gotta keep it respectful.
Yeah.
So, just to go back to that, there's many scientific articles showing the lameness varies, and sometimes not only, which makes things more difficult. So sometimes I may say, this horse is lame right 4, and then you reassess the horse. The horse is lame behind,
Yeah.
and it happened, okay, because we have protocols, as you know. One of the protocols for every horse that we call lame, if we can, we're gonna take specimens from that horse. But that horse now requires a veterinary certificate prior to racing again. All right, does it make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I don't know if you know that well. Okay. But sometimes we send the horse to the specimen collection for specimen collection, and then after specimen collection, 98% of the horses are either still the same level of lameness or more lame. Okay, and then we reassess the horse, put bandage, anti-inflammatories, whatever. Okay, sometimes the horse is no longer lame. It happened. You know, maybe I don't even have a handful of cases, but I cannot lie. You know what I mean? I cannot go and say, no, hang on, I said that the horse was lame, and now, although it's not lame, I'm gonna call this, but if you look close, no. You go, listen, this horse is no longer lame at this moment. Check tomorrow. So you gotta be very realistic.
I think what also really proves the point that horse welfare and horse care in the industry, in our industry, I say our industry because each and every one of us are involved in this industry, is key. Because we remember when Hawam was scratched at the start, odds-on favourite at the then Vodacom Durban July and now the Hollywood Bets Durban July. I remember Ruan, Dr. Ruan, his name escaped me for a moment. There was a video footage of him holding his head in his hands, just like that. And if you could put a caption above, because whether it's the 5 to 10 favorite for the Vodacom Durban July or Hollywood Bets Durban July, or the 66 to 1 outsider on a Monday afternoon on the poly track, everyone gets treated the same.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. And I think that case illustrates as well the difficult decisions that sometimes we have to take to address horse welfare. To begin with, I would say that is one of the reasons that we say, when I say we, regulatory veterinarians, just like we have small animal vets, surgeons, equine veterinarians, wildlife veterinarians, we have also regulatory veterinarians, horse racing regulatory veterinarians, and that's my expertise. So what we do, we look after the welfare of the horse. Remember, health is within.
Yes.
All right. Integrity of the sport of horse racing.
Yes.
Okay. Safety of the participants. So I'm not only talking about the safety of the horse. I'm talking about the safety of the jockey.
Jockeys,
Sure.
yeah.
Sometimes people forget about that. You know, both are equally important. Biosecurity. Okay, you understand biosecurity? So
No.
we're talking about disease.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay,
Okay.
spreading of disease, contagious disease. Okay, and vaccinations and so on. And I like to add public perception. So we all know horse racing, major issue worldwide is public perception. We need to attract more people to this game.
Yes.
We need people to understand that we are addressing horse welfare. Because when it comes to public perception, that is their main concern. How is the welfare of the horse?
Yes.
Is the horse welfare addressed? In that sense, I'm very happy that the NHA fully understands that. I would say trainers understand that. And the industry stakeholders understand that.
Yeah.
The only thing is sometimes we need to do some adjustments. You know, sometimes we need to do some adjustments.
Yeah.
Okay? So now that you understand what I do, technically speaking, you see that every decision has to do with one of these aspects. So for instance, if a horse gets injured inside of the starting stalls, I have to take all this into consideration and look how difficult it is to make a decision. I have some seconds to have a look in the whole horse, you know, according to my expertise, judge what I'm gonna do and make a decision. Remember, I don't. Vets, they make a decision, but they suggest to the board that decision.
Yeah.
And that decision then it's taken, accepted by the board, you know, and the races carry on, you
Sure.
know. Either the horse is withdrawn or races. So now I think you have a better insight of what it takes, what I do. Can I give you another example?
Please do. It's so interesting.
The other day at the Vol, last race on the card, jockey is not happy with his mount. With all respect, please, let's not look who was the jockey.
No,
Okay.
not at all.
All right, he's entitled not
So
to be
he's
happy.
not happy with his horse.
I have to make a decision, and regardless now of what I do, someone might be unhappy.
Yes, of course.
I'm already delaying the race.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Thiago, just to go, so he got to the start, he or she got to the start, and he said, "I'm not happy. I'm not happy with my horse." He reports that to you.
And
Okay.
this can be hypothetical. It can be anywhere this can happen.
For sure.
Yes.
Okay, anywhere in the world, anywhere in South Africa this can happen. A jockey arrives there and he's not happy with his mount. Okay, what is that? I feel it's not moving well. All right, front, back, you know, we go from there. Let me have a look. You know, I have to have a look and I have to make a decision. Sometimes I see something. Sometimes I don't see something. You know, and based on that, I have to make a decision.
Sure.
Sometimes the decision will be to scratch a horse. That is easy in a sort of way because That's it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes is I can't see a thing. It doesn't mean that the jockey is not right.
Correct.
Like I said, we have to respect. You know, but if I don't see something,
You don't see something.
how can I make a decision? You know what I mean?
I'm glad you touched on that, because you obviously mentioned about post race, and I was gonna get to the point about what's it like pre-race when the horses are behind the stalls, and just say you have a field of 15 runners, and you are the only one there, and you have to check out each horse's, like what's your sort of routine
Yeah,
before the horses can load?
That's a great question. I will go through that. But I think that it shows the difficult decision that we have to make,
Yeah.
all regarding the welfare of the horse.
Yeah.
At the starting stall, Rahil, we have to remember that exactly that's the challenge. It's impossible for anyone to be looking everything at the same time.
Yes.
Yes.
So we have a technique. Most likely you don't know that, but those who go to the starting stalls, you say, "Well, that's how I do for this past 30 years." You know, it's obvious for them. Usually, we don't scan the horses from the top. We look at the legs.
Okay,
Yeah.
feet first.
Yeah, because when you look at the legs, you can see what the horse is doing. If a horse is standing, you see a horse standing squarely
Yeah.
over there. If a horse is reacting, you see that the horse is reacting.
Mm.
And then you can look up. You know, if you look up, you feel kind of lost. Yeah, you're gonna see a horse hearing up, but you can see that from scanning them
legs.
from the bottle. So I advise my vets to apply this technique. They can do their own technique, but that's how I advise them. We also have a protocol, an internal protocol that go through the whole procedures, what to do if this happens, what to do if that happens, and this is very technical. And but anyway, the decision has to be regarding the welfare, safety, integrity, and public perception.
That's
Sometimes, if a horse falls down, you know, do you think that the public will perceive that as a good thing?
Not at all.
Most likely not. So you see how public perception also has to be taken in consideration, because what we have is a product. I'm not saying that the horse is a product. Horse racing is a product, and this product is broadcast to how many countries?
Well, I don't know the exact number,
Over
but
200.
all over the whole world. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have to address that. In that sense, what standard should we be having regarding our service? International standard? Because if not,
We're not
You
going
know?
to compete. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
it must be.
Yeah.
It must be international standards, you know?
Well, I'm so glad that I just want to check my list to see what we haven't covered, because wow, we've covered so much. You've told us how you got involved in racing, what made you want to become a vet, where you're from, your previous places of work and your experience. We've spoken about your family, the welfare of the horse. You must get some although there's some challenging times, but there must also be some really good, rewarding times in your job too. You must really, all of us, we're all human beings. We all we have bad days, good days, and we have disagreements with people, and then we don't have disagreements. But there must be times where, because we certainly experience it, and you think
When
to
you
yourself,
just, at the end of the day, you just
say, "Oh, that was nice.
that was a great
That
day."
was a
Yeah,
great
you know
day."
how-
I mean, you must have those days too.
I have these type of days much more frequently than you can imagine. When you come to me and you appreciate my job, I had a good day.
Yes.
When you come to me and you're polite, I had a good day. When the jockeys come to me and appreciate what I have done, what we have done, I had a good day.
Yes.
But overall, when we have after the last race of that meeting, and we look back and no horse was put down,
Yes.
no severe incident.
No severe injuries.
Listen,
it's a good day.
it can always happen in
Correct.
any sport, huh?
Any
sport, in
absolutely.
any situation, accidents can happen. So when you look back and you see that there's no accidents, the feeling that I have, I translate to people usually like this: I feel like popping up a bottle of champagne. And
Celebrate.
that is the best way that I can
Explain,
translate
yeah,
to you.
yeah, yeah.
That is my feeling. So now that I've said that, I think you most likely you see after the last race, you see me smiling.
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
You see me smiling.
Yeah.
You know the the rate, the incidence of catastrophic fractures or severe incidents here in South Africa is very low. This is because everybody's doing its job.
Yes.
Trainers, grooms, work riders, jockeys, vets, types, broadcasters. Why not? You know, it's important. Look how well that horse is striding out.
Yes, yes.
You know what I mean? It's important to raise awareness of that a horse should move well. You know, so
Yeah.
so that's how I feel, and I think yeah, this is very important.
I just want to touch on your dress code quickly, because you're always so smartly dressed, wearing a suit, and a suit is associated with the office job, you know, a 9 to 5 sort of job. But you out there, you know, you in the playing field, and no matter what the conditions are, whether it's a boiling hot day, you always fully dressed up. Your coat is on, and I mean, what is it like? I mean, surely there are times where you get a bit uncomfortable, but you just maintain your dress code.
That's a great question, and I'm so glad that you bring this up, because you'll not believe the amount of questions that I get. Do we have how many minutes?
We have another 5 minutes and we're
Okay,
wrapping.
so I'll try to be brief. So I own this to the NHA. So this is a professional attire from the NHA, and I own that to my wife as well, who helps me. So remember, I don't wash my clothes. I don't have the time to. I don't iron my clothes. I don't have the time to. You know, when I had the idea of the hat box for my hat, you all see me with my hat box
Yes,
traveling
yes,
around.
yes.
That is famous as well, the hat box. My wife's idea. So I own basically to my wife and to the NHA. This is a professional attire that I bought from resources from the NHA. Okay, and as instructions from the NHA. Every time that I travel, I travel with my suit. If I'm a visiting vet, so away from my province, I will be in my suit. But you know, here in KZN, sometimes we have some very hot days. Then I might take my jacket away, okay? But I'm always with my tie at least. And there's so many stories about this. To begin with, people approach me, random people approach me, saying, "What are you?" So the one that I got on the last race meeting, on the 5th, was random people ask me if I work for the UN, for the United Nations. So at the airplane, they always ask me what's inside the box. Then I have to open, you know, you're not supposed to make jokes about that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes, yes.
especially inside of aircraft.
Sure,
So
sure.
I open and said, I have a hat. You know, I can remove the hat if you want.
Yes.
Close the box. Here I go to my seat, answering the same question for the... I don't know how many times I had to answer that question. So yeah, there's many stories about that, about how I dress. Jockeys approach me also to tell me that, you know what, recently, I forgot who, I think one of the jockeys, leading jockey asked me what was my secret as well, you know. But I told you, the team, you know, it's a NHA attire,
But it's
and
also-
I have
it's-
my wife back me up.
But it's also your, you know, Thiago's, as you say, professional, smart. You know, yes, we all like to have a laugh and a joke, but it's a serious job, and it's just a representation of your values and your beliefs, you know, and yeah, well done.
It
to you.
is.
Yeah,
It is.
certainly is.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
I will be very honest with you that in the end, it is.
Yeah.
Because I do represent the NHA, and I have to represent it well. So it is in the end a representation of my company and what we represent for the horse racing industry, not only in South Africa, but also internationally. Remember, we broadcast this internationally.
Okay, there's 3 questions left, 2 easy ones, and well, now there's a couple of others, but we'll go through them quickly. I'll keep the one for the last one because it's a bit of a longer one. But these quick questions. What is your favorite food?
Favorite food? Here you go. My barbecue.
Okay.
Sorry, do you know why I don't say braai?
Yeah.
I don't want to get appropriated of a word that denotes something is very cultural. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That is
okay.
the wrong reason. I like braai, and I understand the differences, but I learned how to barbecue, you know, South American way.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have the times that you're so busy? Do you have any hobbies? What interests you besides racing and your work and horses?
Used to be to exercise, to go to the gym and so on. I'll be very honest with you. Since I moved to South Africa, I haven't the time, but I would say go to the gym.
Okay.
Interesting.
Now, we call this little segment, it's a short little segment, quick fire question. So I'm going to give you a word, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay? And I'll start with Brazil.
Carnival.
South Africa.
Braai.
Well, this is not a word, but it's the Triple Tiara and the Triple Crown, these big races that are happening now in Joburg.
Quality horses.
Okay. Load shedding.
A pain in the beep.
Spot on.
Music.
Brazilian popular music.
Okay. I'm not going to go through all of these, but starting stalls.
Love it.
Okay. Horse racing in Brazil.
Good horses, but a bit amateur.
Okay. Now the last thing I want to talk about before I wish you well and I thank you is I've seen you in action. We've seen you in action, and we always talk about emotions running high, and respect is what you've made. You've hit home about that word respect, but you sometimes deal with people in racing. We deal with. I can sometimes be difficult. He can sometimes be difficult. We all can sometimes be difficult. But how do you take on if you've got a trainer who's really upset? And I know the answer because I've seen you in action.
Mm-hmm.
But those watching, how do you handle the situation? You've now got an irate trainer. How do you deal with that situation?
Yeah, so I'm happy to answer this question. I don't think it's a tricky question, and I think we can even replace the word trainer to anyone else.
Yes.
Because, listen, I don't want to say about the formula, but that is how I naturally deal with that, being experienced as I am. And at one stage, I was not so experienced, and you become. I think it's to listen. Listen to what that person has to say. And I remember having many cases that in the end of the issue, the trainer comes and say, I'll be very honest with you. I was under pressure.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing this up.
Attention. Yeah.
Let me see how I can assist you.
Yes.
But it's done.
Yes.
The decision is done because usually the decision is done. So that's one of the first thing that I say. Now we have to look. I cannot go back in past.
Yes. Let's go forward. Let's look forward.
Exactly.
How absolutely.
So even if I commit a mistake, can we go back in past?
No.
No.
Not at all.
No.
So let's look now the best way forward. So this is the situation. This is the scenario. This is what happened. Let's deal with this together.
Yes. Yeah. I've heard you. I don't think you realize that you watched as much as you watched because and which is probably not what he wants to hear because it puts extra pressure. But it's just so fascinating.
I'll tell you something that I didn't know. Some people brought this to my attention recently that some owner told me, "Oh, so you are that vet that they keep filming and runs to the car." I said, "I don't know if I'm that vet, but I do that." Yeah, I know you. I see you quite often. I said, "Well, this is new to me because to me, I don't see myself when I'm working.
Yes, of course.
And to me, they filming the horses.
Yes.
You know, that's what I thought. So, you know, if they capture me on video, to me this is new. That's what I told the owner.
Thiago, we could go on for 5 hours because you've got an interesting story. But racing today, we've recorded on a Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, because Thiago's in and out the province, and we wanted to make it as convenient for him as possible. Raheel, anything to add?
No, I think he has summed it up. Quite interesting.
Yeah.
And I've been very keen to hear his story and listen, and I've learned quite a bit from what he's mentioned.
So have I, and I certainly hope that the public out there learn more, because it's not an easy job, and you're quite right. But Thiago, just, you know, thank you for your passion, thank you for your strictness, because I'm a racehorse owner, he's a racehorse owner. We are, you know, we're all in the same boat, we're all in the same pot, we're all doing the same thing for the common goal. But thank you, because I know you come under fire sometimes, and you're a big, strong man, and you do the best, and we thank you, and we appreciate your time, and we appreciate you for coming to our country, and we just thank you for everything that you and your team do for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words. This represents maybe more than what you think. I really appreciate that I'm here. I really appreciate that I'm being heard, because I think this is good for the industry.
Absolutely.
I really think, and thanks everyone also for watching this. I don't know if it was boring or not.
No, not at all. As I said, we've been going an hour, and what did I tell you at the start of our podcast? You were asking about the rough time. I said, well, we don't like to go for an hour. We've been an hour and 20 minutes, and it's been fantastic. Yep, it's been fantastic.
Didn't feel like it.
No, it didn't, but thank you. And as I said, maybe in the next couple of months, if we want to do a second segment, we'll see what the future brings. But we've thoroughly enjoyed our time. And to you and your family and your colleagues, all the very best.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
That's the podcast for this week. In the Box Seat podcast, as I said, we've got racing coming up just now. But by the time you watch this production, the results will be known, because the races will be run. And Raheel and I are thank you for your support. And, of course, Dr. Thiago for his time. And Andrew Harrison, who's enjoying his time in the Kruger National Park. I'm not going to say it's a deserved break, because he's always on holiday.
You were just there the other
I was just there, now he's come back. It's like we're doing...
It's my turn to go.
Well, you better make plans to go and see the Kruger. From Warren Inferno, Raheel Radhakrishna, Dr. Thiago Luz, if I've pronounced it correctly, and the whole team behind the scenes, all the very best to you. Stay safe, and as always, we'll see you in the number 1 box. Thank you for watching this week's episode of In the Box Seat podcast right until the very end. And we hope that you enjoyed it, because we certainly did. If you missed last week's podcast, In the Box Seat podcast with Andrew and myself, please go and watch it here. And last week's episode will be right there for you to go and enjoy and watch, as we know you will certainly enjoy In the Box Seat podcast from last week.